Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Nice to see you. Beautiful autumn day. Changes in the air, so many ways. But here we are in this moment, this time, focusing on sharpening our practice, focusing on learning more about the Dharma, being here with the intention of awakening in whatever way that appears for each of us. One of the things that I've noticed over the many decades that I've been practicing Vipassana work is that gradually I find that I have internalized many of my teachers. You know, as you hear the teachers live, as you read from the teachers' books, as you have interviews with them at retreats, as you hear recordings of them, however you bring in the teachings, it's helpful, and sometimes it's automatic, sometimes it's not, but it's good to cultivate what I call sort of our internal teacher. That internal teacher is somewhat of a composite of all of the other teachers you've had, and it can be very helpful at times, particularly if we're aware of that process. I sometimes tell folks that my first teacher, Shinsen Young, he lives on my left shoulder. My other main teacher, Jack Cornfield, lives on my right shoulder. So I often turn to them and say, "What now?" And I usually hear pretty much the same thing from each of them. Sometimes they don't disagree, but not too often. Or they don't agree, I should say, but not too often. So bringing our teacher internally, our inner teacher, our intuition. That's what intuition really means, inner teacher. So through the intention we set for our practice, through our intuition, through the practice itself, we develop ourselves as students, as yogis, and we develop also inside this sense of wisdom in the form of a teacher. And it may, for some of us, be particular people. For other people, it may not be. It doesn't really matter. But the point is, it's helpful to find that place within you that knows that it knows, and that's able to, you can turn to that part of yourself. If you're lost, if you're confused, just take a deep breath and invite the teacher to speak to you. Just listen. It can be very helpful. So what I'd like to do is to share with you this morning some of the things that I've learned from my inner teachers that I've incorporated into what I call the Dharma in 3 words. Well, 3-word Dharma talks, 3-word coaching that I can put to work immediately. And I find that I always get just exactly what I need. Now, this inner teacher is sort of like a guide. Sometimes if we're doing the practice well, we don't need the guide. But sometimes if we're lost or if we're confused, we can turn to the teacher, and sometimes the teacher will even interject if I don't ask for him or her, as the case may be. So I've developed about half a dozen different mini teachings that I've used over the years. And I invite you to try some of these And I invite you to listen, to create your own inner teacher and inner teaching. To maybe write these down as a list that you could begin to sort of have in your pocket for a while, and maybe even in your mind or in your phone, whatever works for you. Now, one of these things that's important is that this inner teacher, the inner teacher is never critical. So if you hear a voice criticizing you, that's not the teacher. That's not the teacher you want anyway. Fire that teacher. You know, kick them out immediately. You know, the true teacher doesn't criticize. They may be very insistent, and they may be very insistent and very adamant, but there's never any judgment, never any condemnation, never any sense that you're doing it wrong. It's always a clear, gentle, straightforward voice. Always instructive, never destructive, never critical. And like I say, if you do find that critic showing up, you know, fire that teacher and invite the other teachers in to help you look at that, see what that's about, because that's typically some kind of a critical parent, critical teacher, critical priest, whatever it is, you know, that camps out between our ears sometimes. So we have to get in there and clean them out. Say, get out of here, you know. So let's just take a look at some of these teachings, these Dharma teachings. The first one, the most basic one, is a 3-word teaching that is just pay attention. Incredibly simple, but you know, if we did that all the time, what a difference that would make in our life. Just pay attention. Just pay attention. The word just means simply pay attention. It's not complicated. It's real easy to do. Just also means only. In other words, not add anything to it. So often we pay attention so that we can analyze something, so that we can control something, so that we can figure something out. You see? We're conditioned to have attention being instrumental. In other words, if somebody says, I want you to pay attention, you're going to say, why? Why should I pay attention? Because we learn to pay attention primarily for survival purposes. First for our physical survival, and later our ego survival. You know, if we want attention, usually it's the ego that wants attention. But as children, we need that attention from our parents. You see, attention is very valuable, very, very valuable. That's why I think sometimes it's interesting we use the term pay attention. Not do attention or get attention or pay attention. Why pay? Well, pay means that you value something. You invest, right? You invest in something because you value it. So to pay attention is to recognize how valuable your attention is. It's the most important asset that you have, is your attention. You see, advertisers will spend millions of dollars just for a few seconds of your attention. Politicians will say just about anything to get your attention. Children want their parents' attention unendingly. You almost can't give a kid too much attention, unless you're a teenager, of course. But for a young child, they want all the attention they can get, you see. So attention is love, it's nourishment. If we tell someone we love them and we never pay attention to them, you're not going to believe them, right? Because attention and love are pretty much very synonymous in many ways. Just pay attention. Notice where you're investing your attention. Notice the quality of your attention. Is the attention clear, precise, or is it kind of foggy? Sometimes if I don't clean my glasses for a few days, I can see, but it's a little bit foggy, a little bit hazy. Much of the time our attention is that way. You see? Kind of cloudy. So trying to get clear, precise attention. And continuity is very important with attention. Try to stay as continuously aware as possible. So most of the time we take little breaks, coffee breaks or lunch breaks or weekend vacations, or sometimes a whole sabbatical will take off. And, oh yeah. So continuity of intention is important. Clear and continuous. So just notice the quality of your intention. Notice what you're aware of. The object of your attention. Is it thinking? Is it sensing in the body? Is it hearing? Is it an emotion? Just notice. What am I aware of right now? What am I aware of right now? Where is my attention? What's the quality of my attention? How continuous is my attention? So that's a huge part of the practice right there. Cultivating attention, cultivating awareness. Attention simply is directed awareness. See, awareness is just being aware of something, and attention is focusing specifically on something in particular. Be aware. Pay attention. So a second teaching that I find very helpful, that has come from my inner teachers, is this teaching, which is simply, probably stated many different ways, but the simplest way is simply let it be. Let it be. It's called equanimity. Let it be. And if you prefer, you can even sing that to yourself if you want to. Let it be, let it be. So, I'm aware of something. What do I do with it? How often do I hear that? You know, what do I do with this anger? What do I do with this sadness? What do I do with this fear? It's not very often I hear people say, what do I do with this joy? What do I do with this happiness? It's like, oh no, I'm fine with happiness and joy. But when fear or anger shows up, what do I do with it? Which means, how do I control it and how do I get rid of it? But whatever it is, let it be. Let it be. Let it be there. Be aware of what it is and just don't interfere with it. It is your life experiencing itself right now. Whatever you're feeling in your body, your heart, your mind, this is your life. This is the universe expressing itself through you in this moment. And your work is to simply pay attention and to allow. Pay attention and to allow. Allow the universe to live its life through you and as you. Just let it be. Now, I want to be clear that this refers to our inner experience, our internal experience. Our outer experience, we may need to do more than just let it be, you see. If you're driving your car and you see a red light, you don't just say, let it be. Red light, let it be. I'm clear that it's a red light. I can let it be there. You can do that and at the same time put your foot on the brake, you know. Yeah. But whatever we do externally, internally we can allow it to be just what it is without interfering with it. If we look at the clouds in the sky, typically we don't try to move them around or control them. We don't say that cloud shouldn't be there. We look at the sky and we say, beautiful sky. Maybe it's a dark, cloudy sky. Maybe it's a clear blue sky. There's an infinite number of perfect skies. You see, the sky is what the sky is. The weather is what the weather is. There's nothing we need to do about it. Internally. Now, again, if it's raining, you may want to get out of the rain. It's up to you. But just notice how you're responding to that rain internally. Is there resistance? You see, what's going on with it? Let it be. Allow it to be. Allow it to be what it is. There's a line from a poem, Desiderata. Some of you may be familiar with it. It was popular in the 70s and 80s, you know. Whether or not you are aware of it, the universe is unfolding just as it should. You see, the universe is not broken, and neither are you. So another teaching number 3, that I found very helpful. 3 words. And this too. And this too, which means this too is part of the practice. This too is part of the practice. Not this. Yes, this too is part of the practice. You see, there's places in our life where we go to sleep, we go unconscious. And noticing where that is. Typically, it's times when we're maybe intense thinking, problem solving, maybe. Or certainly when there's intense emotional interaction, you know, either arguing or maybe intense romantic bonding or whatever it might be. But when we get into our emotions, oftentimes we say this is really not part of the practice. We may not say that, but that's what happens. You see. Or intense pleasure. A lot of times we don't want to spoil our pleasure with mindfulness practice. Yuck. I just want to kind of numb out and have fun. Right? You see. There's sort of this sense of becoming mindless is a way of relaxing and rewarding ourselves. You know, at a retreat, after a 45-minute sit, I'll ring the bell, and I can hear people going, okay, now I can look around and look at the birds and scratch my nose and wiggle, and which is nothing wrong with that, but it also can mean now I can go to sleep. Now I don't have to, quote, pay attention. You see, because we have to pay in the form of effort. It takes certain effort to pay attention. So we tend to not like to do that. We love to squander our attention. We see that as recreation. I can sit back and sort of get into this dreamy state and la la la, you know, and that's the way we reward ourselves. If somebody says, pay attention to the practice, I'm too tired. It's Sunday afternoon after all, you know, and there's a football game on. I mean, who could be mindful during a Chiefs game, right? You know, I mean, is that possible? What's the answer? And this too. Yeah. So anytime you find something that you are unconsciously saying, this is not part of the practice, this is a break, this is a timeout. Sorry about that. This too is part of the practice. This too is part of the practice. Because it's those places where we go to sleep that keep us asleep the most. You know, we can sit on the cushion for 45 minutes and be clear as a bell, but as soon as the sitting's over, if we go back to sleep, what good is it, you see? That's why the continuity is so very important. You know, when you first sit down, when you first get up from your sitting, paying attention. How does my awareness shift when I say the meditation's over? I say, I'm going to no longer sit. I'm going to fix dinner, or I'm going to watch the news, or whatever. Is that a way of saying, okay, now it's time to space out? Now I'm done doing this hard work? See? So it doesn't have to be hard work, but it does take effort and intention to say, stay awake, pay attention, let it be, and this too, and this too, and this too is part of the practice. Some years ago, maybe 10 years ago, I had one of those times when everything that could go wrong physically went wrong. I spent many weeks in the hospital. And very often I was saying, and this too, you know, the needle at 2 a.m. to draw blood, waking you up to take a sleeping pill, you know, all of that standard procedure. And this too is part of the practice, you know, because it's so easy to just become reactive, particularly if we feel vulnerable, if we feel powerless, like you do in a hospital stay. So it's very easy to go unconscious and sort of fall into an angry victim stance. So paying attention. Number four. By the way, I also developed this list based upon what I hear myself telling people at conferences during retreats, or if I'm coaching somebody one-on-one. You know, just pay attention. Can you pay attention to that? Can you let it be? Can you let it be? And this too is part of your practice. This too is part of your practice. Number 4, nothing is wrong. Nothing is wrong. Somebody will come up and say, oh, I had 3 really good sittings, 3 in a row, and I was just cruising along. I was ready for enlightenment. And move over, Buddha. Here I come. And then all of a sudden, you know, I'm depressed, I'm angry, I'm tired, I can't pay, you know, I don't even know my name, you know. So, quick, what went wrong? Nothing. Nothing went wrong. That's just the way it happens. You can't predict, you can't control. You know, what swings one way will swing the other way. So there's nothing wrong, nothing is broken. So particularly if you notice judgment, resistance, it's a good reminder. Nothing is wrong. Nothing is broken. That can lead us into number 5. Thank you. That leads right into number 5, which is, it just happens. Yeah? It just happened. What's wrong? Nothing. It happens. You know, we drop things, we make noises we don't intend to make, especially at a retreat. We try to make it a silent retreat, but it's not always a silent retreat. You know, if you're not used to eating vegetarian food, after about 4 or 5 days, why, the brass section starts to cut itself, you know. So yeah, so that too is part of the practice. You see, it's like just noticing, just being aware. It just happens. Feel your heartbeat. You know what? Just happens. Watch your breath. You know what? It just happens. The sun came up this morning. How many made it come up? Now, there's a few maybe that think they made it come up. But it just happens. So once again, we have this ego-centered place that says nothing happens unless I make it happen. And if it's not happening the way I want it to, then there's something wrong. Either I'm not doing it right, or there's something wrong with me, or something wrong with you, or whatever. You see. I'm going to go find another teacher, another retreat, or whatever, you know. It just happens. And I'll do this last one here very quickly. There's nowhere to go. We're so deeply conditioned. The ego is so conditioned to what next? What next? What am I trying to do? Why am I here? How long will it take? You know, there's nowhere to go. Well, there's nowhere to go. Why am I doing this? Just happens. Just happens that you're called to do this. You see, I don't know why I meditate. I don't know why I breathe. I don't know why my heart beats. But they all come from the same source. My breath, my heartbeat, my desire to awaken, to practice. Nowhere to go. Just happens. Nothing's broken. And this too. Let it be. Just pay attention. So I invite you to create your own playlist. Put it on your phone if you can, if you wish. And practice it. So yeah, the Dharma is an art. It's not something we can plug in and it happens automatically. We're always looking for balance. We're always looking for what do I need now? What needs to happen now? So it's an organic, ongoing process. And our time is up. Apparently time just happens too, doesn't it? You know, nothing we do to make it, nothing we can do to stop it. So I just want to say thank you for sharing your practice with us. May all beings be happy. May all beings be well. May all beings be free.